Coming up on TekThing, Dell's new XPS 2-in-1, we got a review, VPS on your cell phone, and can 3D printers kill? It's all coming up on TekThing. Thank you, patrons. Without your support via patreon.com/TekThing, we wouldn't be able to make the show for you every week. Join the crew that makes TekThing possible at patreon.com/TekThing and get access to our patron-only content like our new audio feed.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every show.
Woohoo!
No comeback today?
I'm just excited.
Oh.
Well, we're also pre-recording a show because you're going to RSA next week.
And I possibly might have jury duty as well.
Possibly. So we are preparing for the contingencies. Oh, come on. Do your civic duty.
I'm gonna do my civic duty.
In the meantime, you're gonna review the Dell XPS 13 model 936.
Yes, well, the 9365 is the total model number. It starts at $1,000, and this is the very special one that they announced just a little while ago. It's the Dell 2-in-1. Ta-da! Ta-da! So it's a Dell XPS 13, but it can also be used in tent mode, or you can do a tablet mode, or you can do a laptop. It's so cool.
Or you can hang it off like the top of something like a friend of mine likes to do. It
totally
really scares me because I always expect it to fall off.
I would so not do that. Yeah, no thank you. That's not for me. So the model that we have is $1,299, so it's $1,300. So of course, just like the other Dells, this one is aluminum and carbon fiber, so it's very lightweight. It's only 2.7 pounds. And this one obviously comes with Windows 10. So it's very similar to the other Dell XPS 13 that they sell. This one luckily does not come with a lot of bloatware. I left all of it on here so you can see what it comes installed with. There's a few games, there's a Minecraft, there's Twitter and Facebook apps, things of that nature. On the inside of this, and this is where it gets kind of interesting, it actually comes with a Intel Core i7 7Y75 CPU. Now that's interesting because it's less gigahertz power than the 7200U, which comes in the ones like we have. So this one runs at 1.3 gigahertz and 1.6 gigahertz, and the regular XPS 13 clocks in at 3.1 gigahertz. So there's a very big difference, and an example of that is what we've been doing on here, where you have, what is that running over there? Handbrake?
This is Handbrake, our beloved handbrake encoding tool that we use constantly. And you can't probably read this, but we're averaging like 34 to 36 frames per second on the standard Dell XPS. So it's going to take about 30 to 35 minutes to encode an episode of TekThing. While on
this one, we don't have this one plugged into the screen monitor, but I can kind of show you on my single over here. It's still rendering.
It's running at about 15 frames per second, and it should take an hour and 13 minutes to encode the same file.
It's going to take a while, so it definitely runs a little bit slower. They do have this cool software called Dynamic Power Mode, though this still is not as fast as the U series. They say that it's supposed to boost the speeds whenever you need a speed boost on the CPU.
Super turbo!
Yeah, super turbo, basically. It also comes with 8 gigs of RAM, a 256 gig SSD, and then the front of this thing is a 13.3-inch full HD 1920 by 1080 display that is 400 nit brightness. So it gets very bright, looks really, really good in the sunlight. As far as I can tell, we've had a lot of rain here, so I did the best testing that I was able to.
It's pretty bright in here. But
it is pretty bright.
that said, like, if in terms of media creation, like I am rendering 3 gigabyte files. I am using massive amounts of data, to parse through on a server that lives on my computer because I'm a developer. Not so good. Normal everyday computer use or editing files or
Yeah, you can do multitasking just fine. I was able to run multiple different things like the Netflix app alongside the YouTube app, which sounded terrible having two videos running at the same time, but it gave me a great idea of how the processing power was able to deal with that, and it did fine for that kind of stuff.
Core i7 processor.
Yeah.
Just a very low power Core
Very low
i7
powered.
processor.
So on that screen that I mentioned, yes, it is full HD, but you do have the option for a quad HD version as well that is available. And it comes with a battery that's 46 wattage hour battery. That means that it's going to get around 8 hours of battery life with just regular use, like the browsing, like the Netflixes and things of that nature. The Intel HD graphics are also included, so you can do like normal app games, but nothing hardcore. And it does come with a webcam. Now you will notice the way I have it set it up right now, this is tent mode and the webcam is up here, and it does flip whenever you flip over the tablet or flip over the laptop so it's in tablet or tent mode. This is different because on this one, the Dell XPS 13 laptop, it comes in the corner down on the bottom left. In this case, it comes on the bottom in the center. But if you use it in tent mode, then it's fine. So keep that in mind.
If you've ever Skyped with a Dell XPS with the camera down in the corner,
it looks
people
up your
have
nose.
complained of nose cam.
Yeah,
That
it definitely does.
It.
It also comes with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. That webcam is a 720p webcam. And then it comes with plenty of ports. There's one Thunderbolt port, Thunderbolt 3 port. It also has DisplayPort over USB-C, so there is one USB-C jack. There's a micro SD slot, which is awesome. I love micro SD slots. There's a headphone jack, of course, a Noble lock, and it also has Microsoft Hello fingerprint reader on the front of it. So if you want to use that, you can. I don't feel like giving Microsoft my fingerprint, so I don't use that necessarily because I'm paranoid, but you can use it if you want to. You'll notice that something is missing on this though.
It's so thin.
It's so thin.
They don't put standard USB 3.0 slots on it.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So take that as you will. They do include an adapter though.
Jack.
Yeah, it does have a headphone jack. They do include a USB regular to USB-C adapter in the box, which is great. Yes, that's the one you tried to steal, but it actually belongs to this little guy.
I accidentally pulled it off when I was clearing files. Sorry.
The keyboard is also very similar to the other Dell XPS keyboards.
Good.
When you type on it, it's very soft, it's very quiet, very little key travel as well. It's only 1.3 millimeters, so it's very similar to the other ones that we've used. Nothing has changed there. I felt like the trackpad was a lot more responsive than the one on the Dell XPS 13 Developer Edition that I have been using lately. It also turns off a lot better and a lot faster whenever I'm typing. So, for example, if my palm accidentally hits it while I'm typing, it doesn't give me any kind of erroneous mouse clicks like I sometimes get on this Dell. So that's awesome. I don't have to update any drivers there. I was really happy with that.
It's Linux.
It is Linux.
That's the XPS 13.
That could be the problem. It is Linux. Linux always has hardware issues, but I love Linux. It's my thing. Okay, so moving on, there are 2 speakers on it. The 2 speakers are on both sides. They get very, very loud, but they are still somewhat tinny, just like any other laptop speakers. Exactly. Since they are side-facing, they don't get covered up if you're going to use this on your lap. However, if you want to hold this in tablet mode and then use it, what is that, vertical? Or is that horizontal?
Portrait
I always
mode.
get them. Yeah, portrait mode. And you like set it, rest it on something, you're gonna cover up one of those speakers. So keep that in mind.
Belly speaker.
Yeah, we mentioned the webcam already, and oh, it is fanless. That's the other really cool thing about this. So it's super, super quiet. The bottom gets somewhat warm, but it doesn't feel that bad. And you've been rendering.
Video. It's basically running flat out.
Yeah,
right
it's like it's a comfy warm. Like it doesn't get hot. It's not scary hot at all. Like it's normal. So really happy with that too. It does come with a couple accessories like I mentioned before. It comes with that USB accessory, but it also, as not included, this is an extra $50, but it's called the Dell Active Pen PN556W. So not included, but very, very fun to use, especially in tablet mode.
Is that like a stylus for drawing on the screen?
It's so cool, yeah. So I'll show you how this works. I have to turn it on. Let me see if I can remember how to turn it on. It takes like 5 seconds for it to boot, which is so weird to boot a pen, but it works. So once you have it booted, you can click once to take a snapshot, or click twice, I mean, and then you can draw on it. So for example, if I want to just draw little squigglies, I can do that. You can see my little squigglies. Or I can choose to use a really heavy marker, and then I will mark it up in pink.
So does it register your wrist at all, or would your fingers ever accidentally set it off?
No, it doesn't. So I can lay my fingers down here and I can still write, which is great because I am left-handed. So I lay my wrist down all the time and write things, but it has that palm rejection technology, which means that it's not going to pick up your palm and make any kind of screwed up features on your notes. It was also designed with Wacom's technology as well, which means that it features 2048 levels of pressure sensitivity. So if you are like an artist and you want to make some really pretty flowers or something like that on here, the harder you press, the thicker your line is going to be. And it can see like which way you are moving it, depending on where you're holding the pen. So it gives you like a different kind of, I guess a different kind of movement, a brush, yeah, depending on how you hold it and how strongly you hold down on it.
I'm always amazed at what Wacom does, except that I can't draw, and I can't imagine having the subtlety of 2048 levels.
Yeah, it's weird and so cool at the same time. It's worth $50.
Okay.
It's totally worth $50. And I don't usually say that about styluses. I'm just like, whatever, it's a stylus. But this thing is cool. Like I've been able to use it all morning, and I was just like, wow, like I want to sit here and draw pictures.
I suspect at this point that assuming you do not need to do heavy-duty rendering or seriously heavy computational stuff,
yes,
you're giving a thumbs up to the Dell XPS 2.
Absolutely. I love that they still kept the awesome quality that we see in the Dell XPS 13 laptops, and they were able to turn it into the 2-in-1. Few caveats, of course, it's thinner so you don't get that USB port, and it has a slower processor, but if you don't need a heavy-duty processor, then you could go with this and it's perfectly fine. It does anything that a normal person would do without any issues. And it has a decent battery life at 8 hours. So yeah, totally go for it. And if you do get it, get the stylus too, because it's worth it. Rafa tweets at us at TekThing, would it help to have a VPN for a cell phone? And he linked to this very interesting article which says, forget about backdoors. This is the data WhatsApp actually hands to cops. Oh, it sounds so scary. So that article is actually in response to a Guardian article that claims there is a backdoor, or at least gaps, in WhatsApp's end-to-end encryption. There's lots and lots of debate in the InfoSec community, like between my own friends, about whether or not this is actually a backdoor. Even Moxie Marlinspike, who was the creator of the Signal protocol, which is the encryption that WhatsApp uses, he even said that it was not a backdoor. Most agree that it is just a limit to the messaging encryption, what it's currently able to do at that standard for that protocol. Since I have a lot of friends on both sides of this debate, I feel like I should go neutral on this one and just say, like, go with your gut.
Yeah, well, a lot of stuff is going on here, right? To be honest, there's probably a very small risk around how WhatsApp can force new encryption. Basically, WhatsApp can force new encryption when users are offline, at which point WhatsApp will resend messages not marked as delivered, which in theory could be exploited to grant access to WhatsApp messages. That's according to Tobias Bolter, who's the UC Berkeley researcher that found the flaw. The same flaw doesn't happen in Signal. That's Open Whisper Systems messaging system that I use and almost every security professional I know uses, which uses the exact same Signal protocol. It's an implementation kind of thing. In either case, they cannot get access to messages that have already been sent and received. Assuming, of course, they don't have you, your cell phone, and a stick to beat on you with until you open and unlock the cell phone so they can read the messages.
Right.
Right? So this, you know, WhatsApp is big on security. Seriously, like Signal level, keep everybody out of my messages big. That's a serious point. If you go up to WhatsApp's website, they're really clear. They state privacy and security is in our DNA, which is why we have end-to-end encryption in the latest versions of WhatsApp. When end-to-end encrypted, your messages, photos, videos, voice messages, documents, and calls are secured from falling into the wrong hands.
Right, yeah, and this is definitely good. I mean, it would be better, of course, if WhatsApp notified you by default that these key changes have been made, because currently they don't. It just happens kind of in the background and consumers don't see it. You have to turn on security notifications in the user settings under security in the account section of the app. And of course that gets confusing, and a lot of people just aren't going to do it. But your messages aren't the only thing you might want to hide. As the Forbes article notes, WhatsApp has given plenty of other revealing data to the FBI on multiple occasions. Mostly it's metadata showing which numbers contacted which over WhatsApp, when and for how long, as well as the IP addresses and phone identifiers associated with the subpoenaed accounts. Location and contacts data may also be accessible to police when they come knocking on WhatsApp's Mountain View doors. I love how they say that.
Absolutely. They're a U.S. corporation. They have to turn over what they've been asked for if it's an illegal, A and ill, they blend together the way I speak. If it is a legal government subpoena, and if it's encrypted end-to-end, the communications, they simply won't or shouldn't have it. Right? That's what the thing, when people say backdoor in the InfoSec community, they get really insulted because it implies that somebody went, well, sure, I'll create this thing in the code so you can reach in and have the stuff I promised people I would protect, right? You know, the thing about WhatsApp in particular is they don't really like to talk about what they do. The EFF basically says they're pretty opaque. So let's put this into perspective. If you're fighting for democracy somewhere and the government gets access to a phone, the government can use those numbers or IP addresses to start tying suspects together, right?
Yeah.
Then they can start kicking in doors at 4 a.m. and disappearing people, which is what, well, this is, there are like, well, I don't want my girlfriend to know I was talking to Cindy, and then there's, I am trying to liberate my people and I may end up being gutted in a dark alley, right? So gauge your risk. This brings us to running VPN with WhatsApp. A VPN might hide your IP address and to a certain degree your real location. But the point of a VPN is to securely connect you to a server. Here's the server in my mythical, this is my mythical server hand.
It's a small server.
Right? If you know, the company at the other end has information on that server, the VPN is not protecting you, right? If WhatsApp has your phone number, the government will just go to the phone carriers, which they probably own depending on which country you live in, or can send secret letters to from the federal agencies of the government if you live in this one, and then they use the phone system to track you. Woohoo!
Yay, so, GPS!
Yeah, so even if they don't have access to the encryption loophole, notice my big mocking loophole, and don't know what the messages contain, with or without a VPN, they can still find you. So, again, this is more of a concern for what the EFF and other people call high-risk users.
Yes.
All of that said, to bring this about to the original question, there are lots of good reasons for using a VPN on a phone, especially if you use Wi-Fi in public places. Oh my goodness, especially if you use Wi-Fi in public places. Or you don't like the idea of your carrier tracking every website you browse on your phone. In which case, those are two easy reasons to justify your using a VPN.
Yeah, totally.
You know, whether or not it will protect you from the WhatsApp information that's living in a server at the end location that's not protected by VPN, don't worry about that. Run a VPN because you want to secure your information or conceal your browsing information from your ISP and everything between it and the server you're connecting to.
And also the EFF, they have this awesome website. It's called the EFF Surveillance Self-Defense website. It's an awesome resource for information to up your game as far as what tools you should download, how to use them. They have tutorials on everything. It's really, really great. So definitely check out that website. And we'll put that link in the show notes too if you're more interested in upping your game on security and privacy. And of course, as well, if you guys have any questions about security and privacy, you can send those our way. I'm like super paranoid and I love looking into this kind of stuff and I like answering these questions for consumers, so I love, love, love doing that kind of thing. ask@tekthing.com is our email address, and start watching my show threatwire.net if you haven't started watching it yet. Over at threatwire.net. Threatwire is a weekly show about security, privacy, and internet freedom news that is happening weekly, and there's tons to talk about.
Would you like an audio-only feed of TekThing safe for listening on the morning commute? We've got one for our patrons at patreon.com/TekThing. And thanks to everybody that makes TekThing possible by offering their patronage at patreon.com/TekThing. Can't donate? We totally understand. Keep sending in your questions, your tips, and your ideas to ask@tekthing.com. And if you could spare a moment or two to give our video the thumbs up on YouTube, like our Facebook page, or review TekThing on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher, we would really appreciate it. It all helps. Thank you so much for supporting TekThing, no matter how you do it.
If you guys just blinked out while we were talking about Patreon, he said, yes, we do have an audio feed on our Patreon website now. So if you're curious about how to download that, every single Patreon on our Patreon page gets a special exclusive audio RSS link, and it's located right above the perk levels. So you just sign up and then that link will appear, and you can copy that over to your favorite podcasting app so you can listen to the show audio only on the go. So awesome way to save some data. Super excited about that.
Stand their faces, but I want to hear their voices.
Pretty much, yeah. So if you don't want to see this ugly grin all day, you can just download the audio version. All right, moving on, we got a message from @whistle034 who wrote in, curious about 3D printers, saw your show but haven't heard anyone talking about the safety of prosumer 3D printers and their operation, especially inside your living space. I am starting to think about a workshed in the backyard with AC power if I really want a 3D printer. And he linked over to droolingdog.com. Thanks from Whistle034.
Oh boy. So let's talk about Drilling Dog. I think it's drillingdog.net.
.net.
Big article came out. 3D printer fumes suspected in deaths of California couple.
Oh, that's scary.
Cats. Yeah, this is an awful story.
Yeah, that's really sad.
It was also an incredibly bad job by a lot of reporters that reported, but other people had reported, doing the whole internet.
Got to find the source.
Yeah.
Find the source.
Well,
Journalism
in this case,
101.
Yeah, well, the source in this case was clueless, but that's a whole other conversation. So 3D printers, as most of us think of them, are FMD, or fused deposition modeling 3D printers.
Okay.
They spit plastic, or PLA.
I hope they don't spit like that.
Gestures today.
Because then you need to get a new extruder if your thing is spitting like that.
You have a giant pile. But the idea, right, is they essentially, they very carefully in very tiny amounts spit plastic down on to create a model. They do not generate carbon monoxide. This is kind of important. The people in this story owned a 3D cutter, I believe a Glowforge, which is a laser cutting machine. Now, Glowforge is marketed as a 3D laser printer because 3D printing is just much more, it's good SEO, right? Glowforge is an amazing tool, seriously, but it isn't printing any more than me using a hammer and a chisel to carve granite is printing, But that was the first thing, is somebody they looked up a Glowforge, they saw 3D printing, so it became 3D printer fumes overcome the couple, because the couple's death has been attributed to carbon monoxide poisoning. There's questions as to whether the couple were even using the laser cutters at the time.
Okay.
So we got a misidentified article that claims a 3D laser cutter, which cuts with a laser and generates a whole bunch of fumes, as a 3D printer. And then they linked in the article, one of the original articles linked to, I want to say University of Illinois studies that we'll talk about in a second, that talked about the long-term effects of being in 3D printers, because passing out from local fumes from carbon monoxide is a lot like dying from cancer 40 years down the road. So in any case, I'm really sure that I don't want to be in an enclosed room with an ABS printer, right? Concerns about ultrafine particles aside, those are particles less than 100 nanometers, causing cancer over the long run floating around. Much less worried about those than I am about styrene fumes coming from the melted plastic. If you want to get deep on this, you can get really deep. You can go to pubs.acs.org and you can read emissions of ultrafine particles and volatile organic compounds from commercially available desktop 3D dimensional printers with multiple filaments.
Oh, wow.
So.
That looks complicated.
It is complicated, but it's science, and science is complicated, and it requires reading, and you just need to deal with that.
Reading, no.
Reading is good, but this is, they're basically talking about hazardous volatile organic compounds and ultrafine particles. Those are particles less than 100 nanometers that are emitted while 3D printers are being used. The PLA, which is what most of us use for 3D printers, is, as MakerBot notes, because MakerBot saw a lot of these articles and was like, whoa, we need to correct some misinformation.
Yeah.
PLA, or polylactic acid, is a non-toxic resin made from sugar derived from starches found in foods, potatoes, corn, grains, even beets. So I am not particularly worried about PLA fumes, but cigarettes used to be safe too, so maybe putting it in a garage is a good idea. That said, if you have ultrafine particles being generated by a 3D printer while it's printing, much like lead from sanding lead paint, those ultrafine particles will be scattered around over and over again unless you capture them. So there are a lot of companies making or bringing online filter boxes capable of capturing the ultrafine particles, and you'll want to keep an eye out for those if you're seriously paranoid.
Cool.
So TLDR, it's probably not a bad idea to put your 3D printer in the garage. I would not put a 3D printer next to the baby's crib. If you do put your 3D printer in the garage, fumes will be less of an issue than the ultrafine particles will, and the ultrafine particles will probably build up over time like everything else that builds up in your garage. By the way, if it's a really, really cold garage, that could create issues with 3D printing because 3D printed objects are dramatically impacted during the printing object by whether or not there's a lot of heat or a lot of cold around them.
That's why a lot of them come in like boxed in frames so that they don't let out extra heat.
Yeah, and like simply running a fan to suck the fumes away from the 3D printer that you probably may or may not need to be particularly worried about in the first place will create issues because it will create uneven cooling and the model will tend to curl or deform in certain ways. So, yeah. It's like the second segment in a row where it's like a lot of messy stuff going on, make a decision. You know, this is early. If you are, you know, printing 8 hours a day in an enclosed environment, I would really investigate and invest in the filtration systems or respiration systems. If you are occasionally printing a 3D model, it's probably not a bad idea to put it in the garage or somewhere that's not in the living space. But that article that you linked to was basically a lot of bad reporting that, you know, the truth is I don't even know if that device they said they were using can even generate enough carbon monoxide unless it's running for a really, really long time. It's complicated. There's a lot of bad reporting. I'll have to find out some good sources on 3D printing news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. If you guys know of any sources for 3D printing news, let us know, because it's something I would like to research more.
Well,
especially since we have 3D printers here.
I am testing a piece of 3D printing software for next episode, so I may be moving the 3D printer a little farther away from me, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Cool. Yeah, let us know what you think. You can tweet us at TekThing, at Snubs, and at Patrick Norton.
Please do. Kevin from North Carolina writes in, "Greetings, Shannon and Patrick. I enjoyed your review of the 2016 Razer blade on episode 108. I was considered buying a blade to replace my current gaming rig, but was put off by some reviews that said the bottom of the laptop, as well as the keyboard, near the WASD keys, got uncomfortably and possibly dangerously hot under load. Did you notice any heat dissipation issues when you were editing? If not, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts after you've had a chance to put it through its paces with a few hours of hardcore gaming. Thanks, love the show. Your loyal patron, Kevin from North Carolina."
All right, Kevin. Yes, thank you so much. I do notice some heat dissipation, although mine is in the middle. You'll see here that there are two fans right here. Right in the middle, I get a lot of heat. I also notice the same heat dissipation in the center of the keyboard, which makes sense since it's also coming out of the bottom of it too, but I don't notice it near the WASD keys. The hottest part, personally, for me, during editing or during gaming is the power brick. So don't be like me and set it next to your lap when you're editing, because then your lap will get extremely hot. It's like
the power brick, not the laptop.
Yeah, the power brick. It's so hot. It's so hot. Like really, really scary. Like leave that thing on a brick floor or something so it doesn't damage anything. That thing is so hot. So for the record, this is during editing mostly, rendering video files, not gaming though necessarily. I've only gamed a little bit on this thing because I like never have time, so keep that in mind. But yeah, it does get hot. I don't think that it's going to get hot enough to burn you, so you know, keep that in mind. Your experience may vary though, so if you do get burned, don't yell at me.
Oh man. Oh goodness.
We also got a tweet. This one is from JA, aka MIC4311. Nice Twitter handle. He says, at Patrick Norton, is MHL dead? I can't seem to find any current tablets with MHL. Is there a newer HDMI out tech? Thanks. I think he means tech out there.
Either way, it actually works both ways. Here's a question. Are there any new tablets?
No.
Yeah, seems like there aren't that many new Android tablets being announced these days. Well, I was asking some of the people I know from different places at CES, like, have you seen any new tablets? They're like, eh.
Yeah, we really didn't see many.
No. In fact, like, you know, like the 2010 Samsung tablet I have is still being sold. New. So,
wow.
In any case, going back to MHL, mobile high definition link, I think that was a technology that always sounded amazing for corporate presenters.
Yes.
More so than it did for consumers at home. If you go to the MHL webpage, there's lots of balloons and You get that MHL is an innovative technology that fundamentally changes the way we work and play. Transform your smartphone into a home theater system and stream your favorite TV channels, movies, and home videos in high definition.
It's fancy.
Let me make this blunt. MHL is a wired connection to your TV that allows you to, hey, run the video from your mobile device to the TV and the TV to charge your phone or tablet while you're using it.
Okay.
Now, MHL claims there are 900 million devices out in the world with MHL.
Like different models?
Yeah, if you go to the MHLtech.org website and go to devices, now watch this for a second. We've got like Chrysler automobiles, JVC, Kenwood headsets, and this middle column, this column right here in the middle, the displays column.
Acer.
I want you to watch that. So there's, devices from Acer, Alcatel, Asus, Fujitsu, HTC, Huawei, ITE Tech, Kyocera, LG, Mizu, NEC, Samsung. We go on for a while. Now notice there's two columns left. This column over here is mobile devices, and this column over here is monitors.
Okay.
And we got a whole bunch of Sony stuff, and Xiaomi and ZTE.
Oh, wow. You're not even past the A's yet.
Well, this is, we're still going. This is monitors. So monitor companies were very aggressive about adopting this. Oh, look, we're in the B's. So we'll just go straight to flicking the monitor mode. So in terms of, monitors to collect to, there's about 1 billion options out there. Here's the thing. Most folks these days are all about wireless streaming. Samsung dropped MHL around, I want to say the Galaxy S6 and the Note 5. Super MHL was announced by MHL last year. But I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah.
Because generally speaking, being wireless is much cooler to most people than being wired, even if the wired connection will charge your phone.
Yeah.
And there are rarely MHL cables long enough to allow you to sit comfortably on the hotel bed or in their seat in the conference room and connect from your phone to the television. So I'm going to venture to say, Jay, that MHL is not dead, but it's probably on life support.
Aww.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's part of living in the technology-based world.
Yes.
Everything changes every single year.
And apparently there's going to be an even thinner iPhone 8 with an edge-to-edge screen that's even thinner because apparently the one that fractured when I sat on it was not thin enough. Not that I'm bitter and angry. And an OLED display.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm
not going to switch back to Apple, but that's cool.
Bet there's, they made it thinner to make sure they could never fit a headphone jack in it again.
Those jerks.
Just saying.
All right, that about wraps up this episode of TekThing. But remember, once in a while, put down your phone, step away from the screen, close your laptop, and do something analog. Like my pick this week, go to Disneyland.
Aww.
Yeah. I have a story about this picture. I got super lucky. After the first parade and the first fireworks, it started raining. Everybody left. They still had this area roped off for the second parade, and nobody was there. So I just walked right up and I got all these pictures of the castle with nobody there. That never happens.
Is it always normally like 10,000 people there?
Oh, it's so crowded. Like there's people all standing up there on the drawbridge and stuff, but I was just like, okay, I'll just take some photos while I have this chance. I wish I had my good camera. I didn't have my good camera. I had my Pixel XL, which is great. That's a low light photo and it did pretty good job, but man, I wish I had my A7R2. Oh. I'll just have to go back when it's raining.
Better you than I. I haven't been to Disneyland or World in approximately 3 decades.
Disneyland is awesome. It's amazing.
I'm Patrick Norton.
Don't lip. I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing.
Dole Whip. It's
Whip?
pineapple, like real pineapples are in this amazing, super smooth, soft serve ice cream. And it's
sounds like
so
Cool
good.
Whip with pineapple chunks in it.
No pineapple chunks, it's very smooth.
So it's
like the flavor.
A smoothie?
The
You had a smoothie with pineapple?
No, it was like soft serve ice cream.
It was at Disneyland, so it was like what, $35?
Man, it was so good.
Or Disney World?
It was like way too expensive, but I got two servings because it was that good.
What does a friend of mine say? For what they charge you for a drink here, there should be at least 3 shots of vodka in it.
Agreed. I definitely agree. Well, I mean, they let you bring in water bottles, so not saying you should. Not saying you should.
They do or don't let you bring?
They do.
Okay.
You can bring in water bottles.
Oh, you were talking about putting water in the water bottles. The supposed water in the water bottles.
Thank you everybody for watching this episode, and thank you so much for our Patreons. Patreons.
All y'all. And if you have any thoughts on taking children to Legoland,
Ooh.
just say. Count the Lego.